The AI bubble is about to burst, and Sam Altman could be the reason why. You see, just last month, Ilya Sutskever, Sam's co-founder at OpenAI, confirmed in a deposition that Sam exhibits a consistent pattern of lying, undermining his execs and pitting his execs against one another. Now, that may be ignored as one man's view, or it can be seen as an informed opinion about Sam Altman by one of his closest co-workers. Your call. But does it matter if Sam Altman is or isn't a liar? I mean, right now, probably. More than ever so, when billions, no, trillions of dollars hang in balance of this very question. It all started in the first week of November, when Sam had to answer an absolute basic question asked by his friend Brad Gerstner on his BG2 podcast. What should have been a benign and fluffy corporate-style non-answer at the worst soon unraveled into a media frenzy that fueled the one question on everybody's mind. When will the AI bubble burst? By this point, everyone seems to agree that we are in an AI bubble.
AI bubble.
AI bubble.
AI bubble.
Are we in an AI bubble?
In fact, Sam Altman was one of the first people to say it out loud. Combine this with MIT's report that said about 95% of Gen AI pilot projects in companies fail to deliver any kind of meaningful output, and you have the perfect storm. But you see, for investors and traders to make or lose money in the stock market, just knowing what isn't enough. You also need to know the when. And right now, every tech and finance bro is looking for that one answer to rule them all. When will the AI bubble burst? We of course can't claim to predict the exact timing for these events, but we can sure map out what things might need to happen for this supposed bubble to burst. So let's peek into what OpenAI and Sam Altman may be going through right now. Let's start with Stargate.
What is that?
It's your Stargate.
We've opened a doorway to a world we know nothing about.
Not this, that one.
But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it.
At the start of this year, Sam and his billionaire friends launched the Stargate project alongside President Trump, a new company which intends, remember this, it's important, to invest 500 billions over the next 4 years for 10 gigawatts of AI infrastructure for OpenAI alone in the US. Now, the initial equity founders in Stargate are SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and MGX. While SoftBank has the financial responsibility and OpenAI has the operational responsibilities, it is Oracle who would provide the NVIDIA chips that are needed for the compute, presumably with their cloud management products on top. But Sam wasn't done yet. Following this, 6 months later in July, Oracle and OpenAI announced their agreement to develop 4.5 gigawatts of additional Stargate data center capacity in the US, bringing the total to about 14.5 gigawatts. Now that's more than 1% of the installed capacity of the entire US right now, just to serve you more high quality AI slop.
Side note, all data centers are measured in gigawatts to represent the amount of electricity they consume, because you can apparently physically fit more servers in a rack than the power and the cooling infrastructure can support. So the electric and grid capacity is a hard ceiling for every new data center construction project. Back to the video.
So OpenAI says it wants to spend around $500 billion on data centers. That's fine, I guess. I mean, you have the money, one can spend it on whatever they want. And it's our boy Sam we're talking about here. He's an upstanding guy, totally good for his word.
Why should we trust you?
You shouldn't.
Okay, fine. So what? OpenAI is a startup. It will raise the money. But why would anybody give any money to a non-profit that is unconstrained by need to generate financial return? You're right, but it's our boy Sam we're talking about here. Upstanding guy, mighty creative around his world. See, now that all those pesky, pompous virtue signaling is out of the way, OpenAI is truly open for business. And who follows innovations diligently with stacks of cash? Who else but Masayoshi Son's SoftBank with his billions in funding? So now that Musk has invested $30 billion into OpenAI, the leading privately held tech giant at the forefront of AI, SoftBank's investors must be thrilled, right? No? Okay, you know what? They just don't get it. Moving on.
But Sam's woes aren't done yet. Thankfully, there's Nvidia, OpenAI's longest standing relationship, aside from Microsoft, of course, who also happen to be their largest vendor by far. When OpenAI doesn't have the money to buy Nvidia chips, Nvidia simply invests some money into OpenAI so that they can go ahead and place the order for those H100s it had kept in its wish list for upgrading their situationship. The markets are not very happy to this kind of vendor financing.
Not one bit.
And also, Nvidia doesn't really like the word vendor financing, but anyway, they just don't understand it. Clearly, because for every $10 billion that Nvidia invests in OpenAI, it sees $35 billion of GPU purchases. If this isn't the art of the deal, I don't know what is. And yes, I know that Nvidia has been under extra scrutiny for all of these circular deals, along with other large AI corporations, but that's not really the point of this video. But for a quick reference, you can pause here to take a quick look. And yes, if you're listening to this guy, it apparently is a $650 billion fraud in the making. But like I said, it's a topic for a whole another video. Moving on. While all of this is happening, Sam Altman is busy raising the roof of investments. He now wishes to make investments in the AI data centers to the tune of $1.4 trillion. That too in the next 5 to 10 years. That's like the GDP of Spain's worth of air-cooled servers in a concrete slab out there in the countryside just to attain the complete and utter slopification of the entire internet. So it is quite plain to see why Brad Gerstner, an investor in OpenAI of all things, would invite his friend Sam Altman on his podcast to extend a friendly platform to sort of address the entire market's one burning question. That too in a friendly, warm, non-combative setting. I mean, what could go wrong?
How can a company with 13 billion in revenues make 1.4 trillion of spend commitments? You know, and you've heard the criticism,
First
Sam.
of all, we're doing well more revenue than that. Second of all, Brad, if you want to sell your shares, I'll find you a buyer. I just enough. Like, you know, people are. I think there's a lot of people who would love to buy OpenAI shares. I don't think you would,
including myself. Including myself.
People who talk with a lot of like breathless concern about our compute stuff or whatever that would be thrilled to buy shares. So I think we could sell, you know, your shares or anybody else's to some of the people who are making the most noise on Twitter, whatever, about this very quickly. There are not many times that I want to be a public company, but one of the rare times it's appealing is when those people are writing these ridiculous OpenAI is about to go out of business and, you know, whatever. I would love to tell them they could just short the stock, and I would love to see them get burned on that.
Yup. That's how Sam decided to end that debate. It was seen as the most defensive, red flag filled answer in tech history. Now, you could either brush that off as the unique stresses of someone in Sam's position, or you could see that as an indicator as to how much control Sam really has on the current direction of the AI market as a whole, of which OpenAI is obviously the flag bearer. It also helps to remember that this happens in the same month as Ilya's testimony went on the record, calling Sam a liar. So questions like these are bound to incite an emotional reaction. I mean, I don't really blame the guy. But then again, right in the same week, his CFO goes on an interview and says this.
Side note, it's a bit too long, so we have edited out to cover the gist. You can always watch the entire video. Links in the description. Back to the video.
People know how to finance data centers. They typically have 20, 25, even 30-year lives. Those are easy things, I would say, today to finance. And in order to do that, we always want to be on the frontier chip. So the question is, how long does a chip remain on the frontier? Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or even longer?
If the timeline on the chip stays short, that gets harder. And so this is where we're looking for an ecosystem of banks, private equity, maybe even governmental, the ways governments can come to bear.
Meaning like a federal subsidy or something?
Meaning like just first of all, the backstop, the guarantee that allows the financing to happen.
For some federal backstop for chip investment.
Exactly.
Note that the host suggested government subsidy, but Sarah essentially corrected her with the word backstop, all while making complete cohesive sense about why they need the government to guarantee the purchase of the chips, not the land, not the power, but the least valuable part of the demand chain with taxpayer dollars. She seemed pretty crystal clear in her vision, and it makes sense since just a week prior, OpenAI's Chief Global Affairs Officer Chris Lehane asked for the US federal government to essentially subsidize OpenAI's power and other capex needs by investing in power builds, among other things, with taxpayer funds. He even mentioned the threat of China's AI ambitions, national security, and everything. So Sarah's words seemed in line with the team's mission, not at all pitted against each other, so to speak. But they were more explicit in their ask, and that rose a new storm. People were unsurprisingly unhappy with a privately funded, exorbitantly valued, loss-making, infinitely money-hungry, for-profit, non-profit, billionaire-owned startup expecting even more money from the average Joe's pocket while he struggles to buy groceries. And the rage reigned from both sides of the aisle, if you could imagine that. I mean, just look at this. Obviously, Sam had to jump in. Now, there were retractions and clarifications, long clarifications. But people saw what they saw and they heard what they heard. And the message was loud and clear. OpenAI's dreams may just be a bit too big, even for its almost ever-deepening pockets. The ripples were also seen across in the stock of OpenAI's latest and largest investor, SoftBank, whose shares fell by almost 11%, kicking their founder Masayoshi Son from the 3rd to the 8th richest man position in Asia. #thoughts and prayers, #pray for me billionaire brother. Anyway, it still would be a bit premature to declare OpenAI's doom just yet. And you certainly don't need to lose any sleep over a billionaire's broken dreams. But it doesn't need to be as dramatic of a crash and burn either. Maybe this part takes OpenAI back into the comforting arms of the mothership, Microsoft itself, where it might find a permanent home and Sam will finally get his billion-dollar exit wrapped in a nice little legacy all for himself. Anyway, how do you think will this all end? Let's talk in the comments down below.